People do not like change. We are naturally defensive and resistant to change. But the thing about it is, when you're not changing, you're choosing. What do I mean by that? If you don't want to pivot away from what is not appearing to work out of comfort level, maybe because you're lazy, maybe because of narrow mindedness, not accepting the reality that's in front of you, not considering the data for what it is, not seeing the results for what they are, then you are willingly choosing to stay in that place under those conditions and settling for those undesirable outcomes. Yeah, I know that might feel like a very hard thing to sit with and swallow, but it's the truth. Because you can't just plot a course and say that this is it, this is the way, and not consider new information as it arises. And to be in denial that things aren't going according to plan, the path is not working. How we're talking, how we're communicating, how we're moving, how we're building, how we're shaking is not working. Try hard as you might. That square peg is not, will not, cannot fit through that circle hole. And trust me, you don't get a pass because you valiantly put so much effort into something that was not designed to work as intended. The other thing about this is we can get so used to being in a certain environment with a certain talk track of a struggle of that's the thing I'm chasing and I can never get to there, but I'm always in this perpetuating cycle of it that we just think this is life. If you're not getting closer to your goal after X amount of time, X amount of effort, modifying, something's wrong. As my dad would always say, something wrong. And the reality is that's true. We have to understand change is required. Change is necessary. And sometimes change will humble us, and sometimes change will excite us. When all your marketing team does is put out fires, they burn out fast. Like faster than the Fast and the Furious fast. Sifting through leads, creating content for infinite channels, endlessly searching for disparate performance KPIs, it all can take a toll. But hear me out. With HubSpot, you can stop team burnout in its tracks. Plus, your team can achieve their best results without breaking a sweat. With HubSpot's collection of AI tools, Breeze, you can pinpoint the best leads possible. You can capture prospects' attention with click-worthy content and access all your company's data in one place. No sifting through the tabs necessary. It's all waiting for your team in HubSpot. Keep your marketers cool and make your campaign results hotter than ever. Visit HubSpot.com/marketers to learn more today. Change of itself is causing us to break through those uncomfortable barriers, those walls, how we have the room arranged. We need to rearrange it to give us a new spin on things, a new look on things. The other thing to consider is what you're not choosing, is what you're not prioritizing. If you really want results, you must prioritize acknowledging, accepting, and embracing the change while learning how to lean into it versus fighting it. You're not going to get anywhere fast fighting that current. The priority, desired outcome, does not manifest without the right processes and the right pathways in place. You can't find clarity in the midst of chaos. If we go all the way back to episode 2 of this podcast, where I first introduced Clover before I put it in my book, Strategize Up, what's the first thing in Clover? Clarity. Because without clarity, you're in chaos, and chaos begets more chaos. So finding the clarity, and the more clarity that you find, the chaos slowly removes itself. It's like introducing light into a dark room. The shadows fade back the more light is added. And when enough light is added, you can see clearly what to do, where to go, and better create a plan on how to do it.
What's up, digital world? You're listening to the I Digress audio experience with Troy Sandidge. Social media, marketing, storytelling, business, culture, and more. Coming to you in 3, 2, 1.
There are many, many, many who are currently, and maybe this is you, and if it is, the shoe fits, I apologize, but we're going to press on, are currently operating in chaos and misguidedness and misdirection simply because they've become so desensitized to it or too comfortable in it or full of denial of it. They can't see things, experience things, and feel things for what they really are. Or, as I've said in my leads blueprint, leveraging language to launch, they may be communicating the path and the direction in the wrong way that others, from their teams to their ICP and desired audiences, their potential customers and clients, the community at large, the world at large, cannot grasp to take an action or make a decision. And that's why sometimes you need outside perspective to break that mold, to look at the same picture with fresh eyes through a new lens, identifying things that maybe you were just so desensitized to because there was too much clutter in the room, too much chaos going on. It was just all over the place. And that doesn't help you grow. That doesn't help you succeed. How do we identify those things? Which brings us back to Clover of having that clarity. And from that clarity, you leverage that to optimize based off the vision laid out and the value given for what is deemed worthy of what you offer, but also the value in exchange for the money that's there. If what the energy and effort you're putting into it doesn't give you a return on ROI on that, the value doesn't match up to the effort putting in, that means, in layman's terms, common sense, you aren't making enough value back for the value you're putting in. You're not going to be a successful business. You're going to break. You're going to fail. You're going to fall. We don't want that. Value isn't just about how much you're giving out. How much are you receiving back? And is the exchange of the output and the input in a good enough flow where now you're not just sustainable. Now we got to heighten it so we can scale. And even with all of that, it requires the execution. Means nothing to build the greatest plan in the world if you're not executing. And even more so, if you're doing all of these things and you're not getting results, well, as I say, the results speak for themselves. You may not have clarity yet on what the reasoning behind the results being so lackluster and abysmal, but no denying if we're not getting results, again, as my dad used to say, something wrong. We need to grasp that. We need to understand that and navigate that accordingly. Ultimately, when you look at it, and I've had so many meetings with executive leaders, with startups, with founders who are pitching for new funding, who are trying to explore new markets, who are trying to bring all their ideas to life. And as you all know, I have no problem being the villain in the story. I never do. Is to tell them my job isn't to be a yes person, to tell you your idea is the best thing since sliced bread and it's going to be a unicorn level worthy experience, product, service, business. As I talked about with Sarah Chin Spellings in a previous episode, go check that out. One of our great masterclass episodes. To be a unicorn, to be an individual that grows and is very successful from the idea, you have to take the idea and refine it to fit certain benchmarks and milestones, adding processes and procedures and protocols and pathways and putting all of that in place in this really great concoction. Put it in the oven and hope that when you come out of it, it's going to be something sweet, that's appealing, that's delicious, that's going to keep people coming back. Then you're going to recreate the ingredients and then learn how to mass produce it and then send it out to the masses, hoping you're going to be sustainable for years and years to come. Doesn't start with, oh, I have a great idea, let's just do it. What's the plan? What's the process? What's the procedure? What's the protocol? Are you having too much zeal? Are you living in too much of a fantasy that you're not able to bring yourself to logistical and logical and practical expectations? Do you have the right people in place? Because I guarantee you, the person who brings the idea is not the person who can execute the idea. That may seem mean. That may seem, I feel insulted, but it's true. The person who brings the idea cannot carry out the idea. They need people to cultivate that idea into their specific talents, gifts, and specialties to then amplify that to drive the result and the outcome that you want. One of the most frustrating things it is as a consultant is to consistently tell people you're wrong respectfully, of course, but in a way to say how you're looking at what you're trying to build does not match the demand, the comprehension, the understanding, and the excitement and the expectation as far as experience the market is saying. What do I always say? You either meet the demand or you make the demand. And most people will never be able to make the demand because though their idea may be good to them, it's not essential enough to transcend to make a new demand from it because there's something else out there. They're unknown. It's not been proven. It's not much of a demand. So we have to meet these people first to win their hearts, to earn the trust, to drive conversion, amplification, advocacy, in the hopes that it lands with enough people, enough touch points to spread. And I don't think enough entrepreneurs, enough executive leaders, enough startup founders sit with the possibility you may be sitting on a good idea. Or even worse, you may see someone doing what you want to be done, and you assume, how hard can it be? That is one of the most triggering lines a consultant can ever have. That honestly is a triggering line for most people, whether you're in marketing and sales and you deal with the upper end and they just see it as so simple because they may be void of knowledge of how much it may take. Please do not be misconstrued by the idea or the notion that because something looks easy from someone, that is not hard. Something can be very challenging, but appear easy. And then there's things that may appear very difficult, but actually are quite easy to do. This whole identity that because someone is making it look easy, that's the tip of the iceberg. What's underneath the ocean floor? How many failures? How much processing and procedures and protocols and pathways did it take to then bring this all together over time? Data, experience, patience, trust, failure, rinse, repeat over and over again in order for it to look easy, one, to be in flow, two, and to actually work, three, to drive action, conversion, and results, four. But oh, silly me, silly rabbit, just because it's easy, I think I can do it. One of the most naive actions you can think, apply, and do in business. There's always a transfer of energy, of sacrifice, and perspective. If you don't have the full system, the full ops, all of it, and you try to attempt and mirror that, you may find the results may be different. But here's the thing. Tell me why. And again, this is no shade. Tell me why people can buy a course. 100 people, 100 entrepreneurs with so much zeal, with the twinkle sparkles in their eye, buy a course. And the course is designed to help you make your first six figures in 6 months. 6 figures, 6 months, great alliteration. Ooh, catchy. Ooh, marketable. Ooh, yes. And let's say it's $660. So a course that's designed over 6 months to help you get to your first six figures for $660. Let's do the math. So $660 times 100 people, that is $66,000 made off of just 100 people, in the hopes that they're going to make their first six figures within 6 months. Now, if we only say 1% of those people even come close to six figures, 1% of 660 people is 6 people. If you round up, then it's technically 7 people. So 7 people out of 660 people over 6 months may get to six figures. What about the remaining people? What about the remaining 653 people who gave their $660 for this course? That does not. They've been given the same ingredients, the same course, taught literally in the same way. Exactly. There's no fluctuation of anything. It's all pre-recorded, preset stuff downloaded, pre-thing written. It's all there to your disposal. And even in that, the results are different. So how much more different will the results be when you don't have all the keys to the kingdom and you don't have all the ingredients to how they did it, to what's behind the veil? How many people's on the team? How long did it take them to get there? How much work is involved? How much behind the scenes is happening? How many sacrifices occurred? How many products? How many tools? How much technology is integrated for them to pull that off? You can't measure, oh, this person took X amount of days to do it. We can do it too. Off what merit? Off what context? Can you truly discern we can pull off that same thing and that same quality and get that same result without even having all the different things and notions in place. Let alone if we did. There's a high chance we don't even get that too. Because what we're also not considering is you can do all the operational, the marketing, the sales initiatives exactly the same, but your brand is weighted differently in the eye of the consumer because it doesn't match up. You're new in the market. I don't know you. I don't care if you're doing the exact same thing as Gary Vee. You're not him. I don't care if you're doing the exact same thing of any top B2B leader, B2C leader, thought leader, content creator across any platform. You literally mirror the same video stylistics of other people, and then nothing doesn't work. I don't know what's going on. You can't be naive in that understanding that we have to matter in the eyes of the consumer. And we have to still create our own process, system, procedures, all of it in flow that's aligned to the demand and the need while we're trying to build brand equity and brand resonance that's sticky enough for people to see us, have attention, have awareness, and choose us, then talk about us. And that still is on the merit that we deliver what we promise. That the experience is great, so they stay, so they keep telling other people. Our goal isn't just to get customers, it's to convert those customers to advocates to make it easier and faster to get more customers. I want to assemble an army of advocates who can drive revenue without us exerting more marketing dollars to it. Let them be our army. Let them be our advocate system. Let them be our inbound and outbound system. Word of mouth from a friend, a trusted friend that had a good experience or multiple adds more currency and value in the eyes to those same people we're trying to get to buy. And even those we don't know even is watching us or in need of our offerings to buy. We can't see everything. We don't know everything. Now that we're living in a cookieless world with only first party data to lean on, we have to double down on community. We have to double down on making sure our community advocates feel love, have the best experience consistently, to therefore continue to share the love for us so others can experience it and have it. But all that is happening at the same time. It's so many variables and things we have to consider. And it's not so simple as I can do that. We can do that. It's so simple. As I've used the same example before, Iron Man built this in a cave. Why can't we? If we don't have the right conditions, the right connections, the right community at the right timing upon distribution, and it connects, it won't convert. If it doesn't convert, we don't make no money. We don't make any money, we go under. All comes back down to an idea. It doesn't stop with the idea. Ideas are just something written on paper until you make it visual, until you make it real, until you create marketing plans, sales plans, distribution plans. And all of that is still in the perpetuating cycle of what if. We now need to transfer that into the execution side of it to see what is proven and what is. We can't just stay in the theoretical and the practical. We have to bring it to reality and let reality tell us, yeah, you was on the right track, or no, this is crap. This is total crap. Go back to the lab and try again. And you got to know when to go back to the lab and try again. Again, having that clarity and awareness to identify what is and isn't working, have protocols, milestones, and guidelines and guardrails in place to make sure when we hit this threshold, let's go back to the lab. There's always go back to lab. If we hit this wall, hit this thing, break this thing, this doesn't work, go back to lab. What can we learn? What can we do differently? How do we navigate? How do we move? How do we operate? We got to understand that. We got to move in the right lanes. Truth, Lies, and Workplace Culture is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Join husband and wife team, Al and Leanne, as they dispel myths, impart wisdom, and answer all your questions about finding, keeping, and motivating great people. The show has a unique blend of theory and practice, which helps business owners and leaders simplify consumer psychology. It's all about exploring what makes people tick. Each episode delivers actionable insights and practical steps to create toxic-free workplaces that prioritize employee well-being and enable sustainable growth to build a thriving workplace. Did we mention the hosts are also a married couple? This makes for some very lively and informative discussions. Listen to Truth, Lies, and Workplace Culture wherever you get your podcasts. Again, it goes back to what you're not changing, you're choosing. Don't choose to stay where you are. Make the changes to get to where you want to be. Stop blaming all these external factors as to why you are where you are. Deep down inside of you, you know you're probably wrong. You probably need to listen to other voices or not listen to voices. You need to probably ask for help. You need to invest money in other channels and other people. You can't take it all on your own. I say this all the time when I talk to certain people. For the amount of money that you're trying to save because you don't want to invest in experts in tools or technology or things that can save you time, which again, the most expensive commodity that you have, to get things forward out of this stagnant area so you can bring new life and be motivated again. What is the ratio of money you're losing for what you think you're saving? Is the same phenomenon as I talked about a long time ago, where I said people will go out of their way to avoid paying a toll. That's still going to be cheaper than a cup of coffee or multiple that they spend in that same day. But they will go out of their way, adding more time they can't get back, stay in traffic more than they probably should have to avoid a couple of dollars at a toll road than to go through them, pay that money for a better optimal experience to get there on time and everything. And for what? I'm going to nickel and save $3 here and not consider all the time wasted and additional money and gas burnt on over there. I'm so proud of me. I saved $3. Bro, you just burnt $32 on coffee and unnecessary things the last 2 hours alone. Perspective. That goes back to my episode of perspective and perception. The people look at things a certain way and build a case to justify within their own mind the decisions they're doing. That doesn't mean it's the most optimal decision for business if we're keeping it 100. And that's the dance, though, right? That's the dance. We have to know when to double down on what we believe. And there's other times where we got to step back and recognize I'm living in fantasy. I'm looking through a mirage and I need a reality check. And I tell anybody, you go look at the P's and L's, look at your EBITDA, see what money's coming in, what money's coming out, or not coming in, or not coming out, and where you're at. You typically will have a reality check. And now you got to make a decision. How do we navigate to keep more of the money, to drive more of the revenue, to make more of the impact? And it's scary and it's awkward. It's hard conversations. I had a conversation with someone the other day who I'm very creative. And I was mapping out a plan for them to maybe make more money using the same amount of energy. But they were hesitant and resistant because the narrative they told themselves was, well, I'm a creative. The business stuff, I don't lean into that. Well, you said you want to make more money and you don't want to do the same thing you've been doing because it ain't working. And you're doing more work for the amount of money you're making is almost not even worth it, right? So that means that's not a creative problem. That's a business ops problem. And to then ignore it or put it under the bundle of, well, I'm more of this and not that. Well, you either need to be more of that or bring someone in to do that because that is preventing you from doing this. You don't get a say in how you want to show up in the business. Things break. Things don't work. You either going to learn how to do it and fix it, or you're going to hire someone to help you fix it, or it's not going to work. That's where benefits of partnerships can be impactful. Mentorships, a board, an assembly of consultants, fractional workers, contractors, support, all those things matter in how you navigate and grow your business. You will never be able to read as many books, watch as many videos, listen to as many podcasts, mine included, go to as many events, go to watch different courses, and have everything you need to do what you need to do. I was just talking to a good friend of mine, Ivante, on how coaches should have other coaches and how consultants should engage with other consultants. Now, therapists typically have other therapists. They're heightened and aware that I can't self-serve myself in every capacity and everything. I even need a check and balance. I even need others to help me anchor certain things. As experienced as I am well aware that I need to shift and adjust and bring help in when I hit certain plateaus, hit certain thresholds. I can't do it all. I don't know it all. It's impossible. The whole system is designed for others to help you, especially if you're under timelines and crunch to move things forward. The reality and the truth and the honest thing to navigate and understand in this moment. Stop being naive to ask for help, but know where and when to ask for help. Don't stay in the mirage too long that you fade away because you thought you were doing the right thing and you wasn't. You wasn't considering counsel. Either you're going to get something done fast, it may be good, or you're going to get something almost guaranteed good, but it may be slower. Now, the competitive edge is those who can do the same quality or better at a faster turnaround, possibly, and that's with maybe including better systems and processes and protocols and people and procedures and pathways and technology and AI integration and all of those things to make up for that deficiency so you don't lose speed but retain quality. But even that, what I just rattled off takes time, trial and error, and effort, and energy, and discipline, and a whole ton of patience. I remember talking to someone the other day, and they said something to me that, I feel like every entrepreneur should take a test to see if they have the right makeup to be one. Not from the perspective of what they lack of knowledge. It's knowing the personality type they are. It's knowing how they respond with resistance and things aren't going their way. Because I've met many, many entrepreneurs who would say that I don't have a college degree. I don't have a high school degree. But I learned what I needed to learn. I made it work. I was able to manage, cultivate a team, create a culture, drive impact, got out the way, delegate, and they took off. And as we grew, I made sure everyone got paid to retain all my people, and we kept growing, and I'm successful. I know many people who are very educated who may not have the right personality, who may not be able to move and delegate and get out the way to move things forward. I used to think I was going to do an episode, and maybe if I get people to tag at Find Troy on across some socials and let me know what they think, I might actually do it. I always wanted to do a consulting tell all episode where it's just like, I just want to be raw and real about like situations and experiences that I've lived, I've navigated, or maybe I bring people on and we all discuss it about like, this is my biggest pet peeve of being a consultant, or this is the worst type of client, or this is the worst type of experience. And in most cases, the ones that I've had the worst situations were people who were not willing to let go, who, if I can't fully comprehend every single thing there is, it's not going to happen. So we're going to waste time. It's not about, giving you a debrief and giving you a light education. You will never know what I know. You will never know what all these top people you brought in who are experts in their field will know. You just don't have the capacity to do it. They are built that way. They think that way. They have the experience. They have the results. It's not about knowing every single possible thing. Let go of the control. Stop micromanaging. Embrace the team, create the culture, drive the spark, ask the questions when necessary, then get out the way and see what happens. Then come back in. If it's not working, reset, recycle, realign, put the right position in the right place, move things forward. But if you're always in the way, moving the lines, moving the timelines, moving the expectations without knowing what those are and trusting the people behind you, you're creating additional problem, stress, and issues that don't have to be there. This happens a lot in corporate America and agency life. Everybody wants to move fast. Everybody wants the money. They want the result. They want the boom, but they're not considering what it takes to get there. I look at any reveal of any movie that comes out or any series on Netflix or Prime or any streaming platform that you do. They get the assets, they plan it all out, and they roll it out. It's not the best experience to build and fly at the same time. It sounds great to say, and people have done it successfully at times. I've lived in the startup world for a long time, so I know that better than most, as many of my listeners do as well. But let's be real. When you got infrastructure, you got proven data of what has worked enough to get started and then amplify and stack on, it's a much better experience, especially with the right foundation, than trying to build the skyscraper and the foundation is not laid yet. But the expectation is we want 100 floors when we really only designed to build probably 5. Just because if I push, it'll happen. And I've seen many fail from that. I've also seen many people who live too much in the fantasy, looking at the blueprint of what they designed from the architecture and not listen to the construction manager of what is in front of them. Timeline skewed because the expectation skewed because the reality piece is skewed because you don't have all the context. I'd rather bring an assembly of people to the table that can educate me on the context and lean in on that than make unrealistic expectations and hope it will work. Again, goes back to making changes. And if you're not changing, you're choosing willingly, believe it or not, to stay in the chaos. If you always end up making an excuse or change something without people knowing or move timelines because you can't sleep at night or add induced stress because of this and that, you are willingly choosing to operate in chaos. Some people manufacture, unbeknownst to them, their own chaos because they're so used to it. Believe it or not, you can grow a business without living in chaos. Not everything has to be on fire. Not everything has to be urgent, immediate, done yesterday. Sometimes the tortoise might have been the faster player. On the surface, it appeared moving slower than the hare. But is it possible that the tortoise was being not overly calculated, because that can hurt you too, but intentional with the moves, who you bring in? I think one of the biggest things people don't consider when it comes to startups and building out a business to a scalable place is the churn. The churn of good talent or identifying presumably good talent that was actually bad talent. Were they really bad talent, or were they put in the wrong positions or not cultivated because you had the wrong leaders to guide them with unrealistic expectations of them, with undesirable experiences around them and hoping this will work? Just because you have an idea doesn't mean you're a good operator. Just because you put the name on the door don't mean you're a good leader. You bring in the right people to do things you lack. You trust the experts until proven that they can't be trusted, and then you bring new people in. But if you're churning out because you went too cheap, or you're churning out because you're creating the wrong environments for people to cultivate and do their jobs, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your brand, ultimately your business, which means you need to change. Or you're willingly choosing to operate at a deficit because that's what you're used to, which isn't good. I challenge you to look at everything and understand what is moving the needle, what isn't. How much time do we really need? What is the timeline that we're seeing through the data that the marketplace is saying, until you get to this point, we ain't going to rock with you. We're not even going to consider your existence. We're not even going to acknowledge it. Cry as hard as you might and scream and push ads down things. That doesn't change that fact. You got to play by their rules. You don't make your own rules and hope people are going to comprehend it and understand it and vibe with you enough to make sense of it. Again, it comes back down to clarity. It's not about, it makes sense in my mind. You're not the one buying the product or the service. Does it make sense in the mind of the consumer? That's the question. That is always the question that you need to understand. Stop trying so desperately to fit your square peg in the circle hole. Cut off the corners, make it round, try again. Oh my gosh, it fit because we met the demand of the market. And then through that, we proved our value where the demand increased for our product. Every blue moon, someone becomes something so irresistible, the whole gets reformatted for that product, for that service, for that unicorn. So you're telling me the 1% of the 0.000000001% of those experience that, and you're going to be one of them. In most cases, you're not. Yes, everyone quotes the amazing story of Canva. Denied over 100 times, and now it is what it is today. Billions of dollars of impact of all the things. That's a great story. But how about the hundreds of thousands upon thousands that story does not align with, and we don't even know they existed because it never got off the ground, because it never happened? I'm not saying your idea won't, but let's put context behind it. Let's add numbers to it. Let's add a sense of realism behind the facade and the mirage and the fantasy. Yeah, be the dreamer, but be a dreamer that can apply the dream in realistic terms of how to apply it, execute it, and drive it home. In most cases, the timeline you may put out there from a roadmap perspective is going to look way different when you're out there from a GPS perspective. Is what you do in those moments, is those modifications and changes that you do then, is what's going to determine how you operate the next 30, 60, 90, the next 3, 6, 9, 12, the next 2, 4, 7 years. And it's a time game. with a commodity that is so priceless, we waste a lot of it doing unnecessary things, moving in so many directions, trying a million things at once, and it doesn't make sense to the audience. Ask more outsiders and strangers what they think, and less of your perpetuating bubble of yes people, and you might get a different understanding and perspective and perception of how you're positioning in the market and how that translates. Not everybody's wrong. If it makes sense, it'll make sense. If it doesn't, trust me, you'll know that too. It's what you do with that information and how you navigate change. You can choose to change, or you can choose to stay the same, roll the dice, and hope that it will all work out. I like better odds than that. I think most people would. Not saying that there isn't risk. There's always risk in entrepreneurship. There's always risk in breaking down new markets, introducing new things into the marketplace. But let's not add additional weight and challenges to the process. Let's consider, what are all the paths in the sand that we can follow and add our own spin to it to make it more grip, make it more sticky, make it more sustainable. So we don't have to experience all the downfalls. We can observe and learn without experiencing to waste money, time, and energy in doing it. And then let's not be so naive to think that because someone else is doing it this fashion, we can and get the same outcome. Let's be real. Let's prioritize what we can and navigate accordingly. And again, a lot of this isn't creative. A lot of this is operational, infrastructure, strategy, psychology, perspective, and being patient that what you want is going to take time. Now, when you launch and assess this, is it that you're running out of time because you're running out of money to sustain and we got to revisit this to drive more revenue at a certain point? Or do I need to wait, build the infrastructure and all things that I can on a certain budget and launch in phases till I have enough funds or profitability to make the bigger moves and the bigger shifts? You can't do all the things at once to drive a sustainable business forward. You got to take it in phases, chunk by chunk. How do you devour a whole elephant piece by piece? Not all at once. It will never work. Simple things in this episode, but critical things that many people miss, that they don't apply in their sales, their marketing, their operations, their business infrastructure initiatives, their branding, their positioning, their messaging, their creative, all of it. Add more patience and be willing to make more changes. And be real with yourself. What you don't do, but yet complain to everyone else about it, it's on you. Because you can change it. You can make some shifts. Don't be too desensitized or too comfortable in the chaos of what is, causing you to be too blind about what could be if you would just make some modifications and be willing to take a step back and try it out. So if you take away anything from this episode, it's simply this: to make those changes, to align, to grow. Be open, be humble, be curious, be patient. Yes, have zeal, but please, in all of humanity, please have more patience, have more discipline, and know that what you put out on a roadmap for a timeline could be literally obliterated overnight with the changing of markets. It's better to be in tune with the market as a GPS than going around here with MapQuest off something you designed off one way of ingredients and protocols to follow one way to get there, and not considering all the real in-time challenges and additional variables that come across your way to get to your destination. We're not playing the short game, we're playing the long game. And we're moving 1 millimeter at a time. That's the plan. That's the way. See you next time.
And that's a wrap. We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Digress. What was your takeaway? Care to share your thoughts and tag Troy on social media? You can find him on all platforms at Find Troy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review or comment for this episode from wherever you're listening. Looking for a marketing strategist to build the structure, strategies, and systems you need to get the success you want and the ROI you desire in your business? Book a discovery call to talk with Troy at findtroy.com. And as Troy's philosophy goes, imagination is the engine, content is the fuel, social media is the highway, marketing is the roadmap, sales is the destination, culture is the GPS. Thanks for listening.